grab a seat. Welcome to the table. Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So in this video we are going to talk about our May expenses, the breakdowns of all of the variable expenses that we went through. These are all the receipts that I have for May, which is a lot. It opened my mind to a couple of things that I did want to discuss with you guys today in regards to how I track my expenses. And today we're also going to go over the future funds together. So we do have to go through our 100 envelope challenge card picking that we're going to do today. But I was also considering putting money or start putting money into the year fund for 2025. So that all kind of depends on what I pick for the 100 envelope challenge. So let's go ahead and get started. So first let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is my funds. My paycheck is split into 3 categories. Once I get my paycheck, it goes to a checking account so that I don't get fees from my bank. So I have to put $250, and then another $250 goes into my SoFi account, which is my high yield savings account. The third option that will happen to the deposit of my paycheck, if there is enough funds, it goes to my other savings account, which just kind of sits in my bank account until I actually need to use it. Now that third savings account is not included in my sinking fund or my savings tracker category because I don't necessarily touch it unless I need to. And the savings tracker that I have for my sinking funds and so forth is all money that is going to be spent on other things. So I might want to start adding that amount into my tracker just for the sake of consistency with everything. But this is basically what goes into my paycheck and what is allocated for. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go over the variable expenses that we have. And I think I did a little bit better in some categories and I failed in other categories. So for gas it was under, groceries was luckily under, which is pretty surprising. Now I did make some traction when it came to trying to get meal preps going again, but the hardest part about meal prepping is that it never stops. And just when I am completely done with a successful meal prep, once the days off comes in, that's when I end up failing with my meal preps because I don't continuously do it. So it's hard. So it's definitely a work in progress. This month I downloaded a calorie tracker, which I had to do it because it's getting to the point where I really have to see what I'm actually putting in my body. Writing it down and what I'm putting into like my meal plan tracker things is not really working to the way that a calorie tracker app can actually provide. So that's what I'm doing now moving forward. I also tried some supplements, some turmeric, from pills to the liquids to the joint supplements. I ended up just returning everything just so that I can focus on my diet because like my boyfriend says, you know, the supplements is only supplements if your diet is good, and that's kind of what I need to focus on. So if I can have a healthy diet and if I can have a balanced meal every dinner or lunch, it can level itself out. But of course I know that supplements might be something that I can foresee in the future. Right now though, I am just going to focus on eating properly and really focusing on that. Now the dogs, my budget was $60, which I didn't even think I would be able to do. But this month I really did some damage. I did make some homemade biscuits. I made that twice already this month and so far so good. I do post stories on my Instagram, so you can definitely follow me there. It's pretty fun. I'm trying to get more into the social media aspect also, which is pretty, you know, time consuming as it is, but those homemade cookies were pretty awesome. It was super easy and it's only like 3 or 4 ingredients, and I'm super happy that I actually started to make some traction into making more things at home per no spend. So it's like the whole no spend challenge is really becoming more alive as months go and becoming more self-sufficient with making things at home has become more of a thing this month. So that's really something that I did work a lot on this month. So kudos to me. So for the next one, medical and health, I spent $83.70, and that's basically where the joint pills and the supplements came from, but I ended up returning them. So it's still there, but I ended up putting that down here as a return as well. Now for work, I did spend $126.85, and I believe that was in the beginning of the month. For home, it was $51.28. Now the takeout I left it blank, but it's roughly about $341. And the reason why it's so high is because of all of the events that were happening in May. There were Mother's Day dinners, there were days that I was not ready because of my meal planning sessions was not successful enough. And there were some days that was just really, really hard, that we just couldn't not spend money on food. And that's definitely my fault. That's, planning wise, not having enough time. It's still an issue, and I hope that I can get better at this, especially with like the meal planning and all this that I'm trying to focus on. But the moral of the story is you just can't give up. I'm still definitely gonna keep going for it. So for the bills, I spent $229, and that was for electrical wire and for some trash bins for my mom. For the drinks, I just completely took that out altogether because there aren't really instances where I'm craving to go buy a drink anymore. And if I do, I'm just gonna end up extending my categories a little bit more and just have categories for like everything and just add that as time goes. But for now, I think I could just take out drinks altogether. So I just substituted it for bills. So for the next one, car, nothing's going on with the car right now, so that's cool. Snacks, we're pretty much hitting that budget. It's a little bit over, but it's no big deal. But because of the Calorie Tracker app, I'm still trying to maintain what I'm consuming and just being aware of all of those things. So seeing that and seeing the numbers and seeing the breakdowns really makes me second guess my options for what I'm gonna have for breakfast or lunch or dinner. For gifts, like I said, Mother's Day, my little sister's birthday, we went out to dinner. I did buy a couple of things for my mom, and then for the reefers, we had $106.50, and those are mainly like in cash. So, and then for the returns $95.25, and that's basically, like I said, was from the medical, and then I believe the other one was for some groceries. I was able to return some other groceries that I ended up not being able to use. When I was buying the dog biscuit ingredients, I realized that some of the ingredients that I did buy had sugar in them, so I had to return them, and I was able to return some other food items that I bought the month before. So that's where that is. So now I'll just show you my tracking system. That way I can kind of explain how all of this kind of works out. So all of the tracking, all of the expense tracking that I'm doing is all a side effect of the no spend challenge. And this might even change, who knows? Like, this is still where it's kind of okay at the moment, but I'm still very open to changes and making this however it's gonna be as the final product. And for the month prior, let's say I'd go to Costco and I spent a certain amount. Well, that certain amount can be spent for multiple categories. This tracker really helps me see what I'm spending that amount on, which different categories there are, and exactly what I spent in that category. So it becomes really, really specific. And I know people probably don't track their expenses like this. Maybe there are some people out there who are super into tracking exactly what they spend their money on. And I know that that's a very, very small fraction of people who do that. And I'm definitely one of them. And if you are, grab a seat. Welcome to the table. Because it's definitely really interesting once you start to see exactly where your money's going, and your quirk can be something different. You want to be tracking your savings more. You want to be tracking your debt. Maybe you're in a debt journey, and that's totally fine. Like, everyone is in a different part of the journey, and this is where I am. But I'm really glad that I am doing the weekly tracking, which is good. Like this one, I ended up doing a page and a half because even though it was only for 5 days, geez, I spent so much money everywhere. So yeah, but there were some things where I got mixed up because I ended up going here instead of here, but it's all good because by the time that it comes to the variable expenses, I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff because this is all where it comes down to, like the breakdown of all of this. So being able to see this in the monthly tracker and then going to the week per week basis, it really is nice to be able to see that, because I can always go back to that month and really see what I spent my money on. And another thing about this page is that, you know, you can make these expense trackers as pretty and as nice as you want it to be and highlight it and all of those things. But what helps me, because I'm doing a no spend and I'm limited to like 5 colors, I'm not gonna go and buy, you know, pretty highlighters that can have a color for all the categories that I have. Maybe in the future when I'm not doing a no spend or I'm ready to buy more stuff, then I'll do that. But how I'm combating not buying stuff or buying pretty highlighters is that once those categories are calculated for in here, I no longer have to look back at these pages unless I want to be specific as to what I'm looking for, what I'm spending my money on. So having this budget planner though is really, really nice to see, because it's nice to be able to like be openly honest about what you're spending your money on and how you can make it better. How, like, what are your opportunities when you're spending on all of these different categories and what you're actually taking home. But there are a lot of different ways that you can also track your money. Like for me, I track all of my expenses through my credit card. So when I'm calculating my expenses for the week or something, I usually will compare it to my credit card statement online. If I didn't pay with my credit card and I paid with cash, I make sure that I put that in my envelope right away, and I make sure that that's gonna be accounted for no matter what. Another thing that I do is that I take a picture of the receipt if I know that it's gonna be like a lost cause. So let's go back to May before I keep ranting about all these things. So what I did was I did do some calculations here. Now for my funds, we did get $16.44. But my overall estimated expense would be $18.17, plus the fixed expenses that we have, we are roughly at $22.47. So with the amount that I currently have minus the cash, because I don't pay with cash, so with that $2,200 minus the $16.44 minus the cash comes out to $803. So that amount is theoretically what I need to take from my savings account and put it into my checking account so that I can pay for my bills. So that's basically what I'm doing, so that moving forward for June, I'm basically starting at 0. But let's go back to our May overview and let's get to our 100 envelope challenge. So for our 100 envelope challenge, we've already taken out the 69, the 81, and then the 33. I did that mid-month, and I just posted that on my Instagram just because I have videos that I want to post, but because of the time, all these schedules, it's hard to maintain like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I'm still working on that, So let's go ahead and pull the next card for our 100 envelope challenge. So I don't think I need to like shuffle all of this because I already did and I'm not really paying attention to all of it, but 17 is a pretty good number and it's pretty low. So I kind of want to pull another one. So another thing that I do want to do, that this 100 envelope challenge, I don't want to just pull one per paycheck because that's going to take me forever. That's going to take me like 4 years because we only get paid 26 times in the year. If I do one pull for every paycheck, this will take me about 4 years to complete, and I don't want to do that. And especially because there's all these like smaller amounts, we want to go ahead and pull another one because this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So we are working with $250, so let's see if we can pull another one and it'll be just as low. Sweet, $27. So I think I'll leave it at that. And let's go ahead and actually deposit that right now. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I did, which was deposit it per card. So let's go ahead and go to the 100 envelope challenge, and we're gonna go ahead and transfer from the deposit that we just got couple of days ago, and we're gonna put $17, 100 envelope challenge, sweet. And then let's go ahead and add the $27. And yes, my system for the 100 envelope challenge is definitely different, and maybe you've seen it before, maybe you haven't. I've never seen it like this before, but this is how I'm able to use the supplies that I have without having to buy anything, and you know, making all, and because I do everything digitally, I can't really put cash into anything. But this is a great way for me to be able to join in the challenge and still be able to have a physical tangible thing that I can mess around with and play with and be like, oh yay, I'm participating. So it's nice to be able to create something. And this was just from an ice cream box that I cut, and then I just flapped it over, collaged everything with pretty papers, and it's super sturdy now because you collage it. It's basically glue, right? But yeah, if you haven't seen this before, that's basically what it is. So let's go ahead and finish this up and get the $27. The $27 deposited to the 100 envelope challenge. Sweet. Awesome. So I'll color this in, and then we will go ahead and put that there. Sweet. And then you can see that these are the ones that I've picked so far, which is pretty fun to be able to see this go down. All right, so let me go ahead and grab a highlighter. I think I used green last time, but I think this is pretty close to green. So we're just gonna use this yellow one. So we did 17 and 27. Woohoo! It's so fun to be able to like see that kind of just getting colored in. And then we're just gonna count this as May, the last number 3. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the savings tracker. And this is an update that I did want to show you. So here it is. It did look like this. This is what it was before, but this is what it is now. What I basically did was I took away the total amount, which there's nothing to be tallied, and I just moved it under category to put the starting amount. And I kind of just wanted to keep it here to show you the difference between the two. And yeah, I mean, I should have done this before, and I didn't really think about this until after, but here we are. You know, this is a learning process. This is me making my budget planner, and this is me learning as I go. So now we have the starting amount for the year, whatever rolled over, but I can kind of just add what I already have in my funds for my SoFi account. And if you want a digital way to track your savings and get like high yield savings, if you want a referral for it, I will leave mine below. The other thing that I did want to do, besides the 100 envelope challenge that we did put that money towards, let me just go back to May real quick. So we did so let me just document all this stuff. So we did the 100 envelope challenge, and we did 17 and 27. That puts us at $44. So I did have the emergency fund that I wanted to put money in. That's something that I am focusing on, and we'll go back to the savings. So for the new one, we have the year fund that we are saving money for, we have the emergency fund, and we have the 100 envelope challenge. All of these have basically been closed out, and not closed out in a way where there's no more money in it, but closed out in a way where we hit goal and we're basically just waiting to withdraw that money once those expenses come through, or if it ever does. So this car fund will stay here, and I believe we closed this out last month, and that was like at $1,000 or something now. For May, the 100 envelope challenge is at $227.59. I'll go ahead and write that down. So this is going to be the amount that I will have by the end of the month. Now for the year fund, that is at $829.52, which is basically the amount that we need for the rest of the year expenses. For the emergency fund, we still have to put money in there. For the car repair, that one's also complete. That one is at 1,003.71. So let's go back to May, and we're going to put money into our emergency fund, and we're also going to put money into our year fund for 2025. The goal for the year fund, oh my god, we're going to go back over here. The goal for the year fund for 2025 is $2,220. So I wanted to have this by December, which is about 7 months from now. That would mean that I would have to deposit $318 about per paycheck, which I can probably say is definitely over my budget. But if we're looking at what we actually need that for, if we look back at our future goals, I wrote everything down, right? Because we have like a year layout and all of my expenses are in the first quarter of the year. I wrote everything down. So I only need $500 or $600 by January. That's all I need to have to pay for that expense. The rest of it will be in March, which is going to be like $800 for all of these things. And that's going to be the next hurdle, right? And then, $600 for July. The rest is like affordable, right? So we're basically just looking at the big ticket items that we need to cover or have money for, so that once those come, it's not as stressful to have to come up with that money. You just already have that ready. But if we think about having $1,300 for March, right? That makes it a little bit easier, because by March that would be 10 months. So if we need $1,300, that would give us $130 to save up for per month to be able to hit that goal. That's basically $65 per paycheck, which we can do. So we're gonna go ahead and add $65 to that year fund. I'll put that here also. And then we'll go back to the SoFi account. So we still have 206 that we're working with. So we're just gonna go to the year fund, and that has nothing in there yet. So we're gonna go ahead and add the $65 for the year fund for this paycheck. And that will at least give us a start into putting money aside for that. And that would be a little bit easier. And that was for May, so we kind of have one paycheck extra. So we might even get to the rest of it by then. So the 65 is a good way for me to be able to start putting money aside, because how I normally put money is kind of like how the snowball method kind of works. Like I start with whatever the smallest amount is, and I kind of just dump all the money into all of that until that's done. And then I move on to the next one and dump all the money that I have until that's done, and then move on to the next one. And it's not as fun as like being able to put a little money aside for this and a little money aside for that. And it kind of gives me like a sense of accomplishment when I see like all of these different future funds that I'm putting money in. And it's not just all of that goes in there and that's it. Like this, I just put $227 on the emergency fund and call it a day. Like, whereas I could have added that amount for multiple future funds, and it would make me feel a little bit more excited to see that, hey dude, good job, you're putting some money in there. So I think it's a mental game for me. But so for the rest of the amount that we have on there, which is $141.63, we're going to go ahead and put that into the emergency fund. Now our goal for the emergency fund was $5,000. We are at $5,222.60. And now that kind of puts us to the next milestone. But let me just go ahead and transfer the rest of the amount, which is $141.63, to the emergency fund. And that also accumulated some interest just by sitting there, because I was waiting until this video to do all of that. So now for that emergency fund, let's go back to the savings tracker. All right, so we'll go ahead and just kind of calculate or tally up all of the amounts on here. So for our emergency fund, we have $5,364.23. Now my goal for my emergency fund ideally is to save a year's worth of expenses. Now I know that is so far down the line that I broke it down into smaller goals. So my goal for this year was just to get it to 5,000, which we're already there, and it's barely halfway through. So for the year fund, we have $65. And now, so we did the emergency fund, which we finished, and then now we're just gonna go ahead and put that on here. And what I did for this, instead of kind of just doing it like this, where it's like 416 for each box, where I basically divided the 5,000 by the number of boxes that we had, and each box will equal a certain amount. But that's not really fun for me. What was working for me was that every time that I deposited an amount and I got to see how much I deposited, that worked for me. So what I am gonna do, I basically got the same chart and I just broke that down even more. We're not gonna have 24 paychecks for the rest of the year. So this is plenty of space that we can just write down how much we deposit every single time we get paid. So for this one, we added 141.63. Okay, so let's go to the savings tracker for the month of May. Here we had, so for the last payday, the year fund, this one was 0. We did add $65 for the year fund. The 100 envelope challenge, we did 17 and 27. And then there was no interest that was added here, so that's just gonna stay at 0 because we just put money into it right now. So the total for that is $65. So for the 100 envelope challenge, we had 59 cents as interest. So our total now is $227.59. Whoops, you can't see it. All right, and then for the year fund for 2024, that puts us at, the interest was $3.15. That puts us at $829.52. The emergency fund, the last one that we did put was $141.63, and the interest was $19.10, which puts us at $5,364.23. Our medical fund is all in the emergency fund. Car repairs was $3.72. That puts us at $1,003.72. But I think that's it. And I'll probably leave some extra footage from our hike. It was a 14-mile hike, which was pretty fun. And I'm so glad that I did it. It's definitely something that I didn't think I would be able to do. But I hope there's gonna be more to come. And hopefully you guys will stick around for all of that stuff. But other than that, I will catch you guys on the next video. Take care.